Singapore, this little dot on the map, has pulled off some amazing feats. We're talking about the best healthcare system in Asia, an exceptional education system, political stability, top-notch infrastructure, and a strategic location amidst thriving economies. Singapore has truly carved a niche for itself globally. But despite these accomplishments, the future of Singapore doesn't shine as brightly as one might think. Sure, they've got their ducks in a row at the moment, but the island has few natural resources, hardly any land, and it is confronting issues akin to more prominent developed nations, Germany and Japan, such as an aging population, reluctance towards immigration, and a heavy reliance on global trade. Now, we're not here to bash Singapore or spark controversy for the sake of it, but there are several factors suggesting that Singapore's future is seemingly bleak. And we'll be exploring a few of these reasons in this video. Before we dive into the chapters ahead, what are your thoughts on the future of Singapore? Let us know with some facts. Singaporean politics have been dominated since 1959 by the People's Action Party, or PAP, which is currently led by Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong, the son of Lee Kuan Yew. From 1959 until 1990, Lee Kuan Yew led the People's Action Party, or PAP, government that aggressively combated unemployment, raised living standards, and oversaw a large-scale public housing project. The country saw the construction of an autonomous national defense system, the dismantling of racial tensions, and the growth of economic infrastructure. Singapore went from a meh third-world ranking to a commanding first-world position by the end of the 20th century. The PAP has been making decisions for ages, and it all seems okay, right? Well, wrong. 3 corruption scandals surfaced in the first 7 months of 2023, casting doubt on Singapore's sound financial standing. Analysts are side-eyeing the PAP, especially as Prime Minister Lee takes his sweet time passing the leadership baton, and opposition parties gear up for the 2025 elections. And it's not just them. Even some Singaporeans are against the People's Action Party, as they feel that Singapore is inevitably gearing towards an irretrievable autocracy. Singapore's immigrant-to-total population ratio is among the highest globally. Since the 1990s, the island has seen a speedy influx of immigrants, causing a chorus of criticism and discontent from the local-born residents. The grumbles mostly revolve around jobs, housing, transportation, and preserving cultural identity. Now, the government argues that immigrants take up jobs that locals avoid, or bring in more opportunities. Nevertheless, grievances persist, with complaints about immigrants stealing jobs, pushing wages down, and making employers lazy about training the local crew. Housing prices are soaring, and public transportation is feeling the squeeze, all thanks to the newcomers. Cultural identity is in the spotlight too. Some people worry that immigrants are diluting Singapore's uniqueness and messing with its cultural vibe. And let's not forget the suspicion around immigrants using Singapore as a mere stepping stone to somewhere else, like the United States. Even the scholarships for foreign students aren't spared the critique, with arguments that they snatch up spots and resources that could have helped local students. The 2011 general election presented a platform for this dissatisfaction, as the People's Action Party, or PAP, received a record low 60% of the public vote. Fast forward to today, and the immigration debate is still a bubbling pot of resentment among citizens gearing up to cast their votes. With 5.64 million people living on a land area of 733.1 square kilometers, Singapore has the 3rd highest population density in the world. Being a city-state with cramped quarters, Singapore has to juggle housing, infrastructure, industry, and leisure all in this space. On top of that, the population is predicted to increase by 1/3 in the next 2 decades, making land even scarcer and property prices skyrocket. Not only have housing prices risen over time, but so have young people's expectations. Aspirations include owning a private property, affording a larger flat in a prime location, and providing more housing options for singles. The median price of an HDB flat stands at around 495,000 Singaporean dollars. And if you're eyeing a private condominium, get ready to fork out about 1,467,778 Singaporean dollars. And as per usual, the closer you inch toward the epicenter, the more your wallet takes a hit. If you're a Singaporean, the government has your back with measures like HDB flat subsidies and grants, making sure you can snag a decent place irrespective of your salary. But if you're a foreigner, get ready to dig deeper. On top of regular taxes, there's an additional buyer's stamp duty, or ABSD, 60% of the purchase price of the market value, whichever stings more. There's only so much the government can do, even though it's attempting to reclaim land like it's in SimCity. This housing crisis, in part, has led to a decrease in the birth rate, alongside the country's work and academic system. It's well known that Singapore's educational system is among the best in the world, but it comes at a high cost. Singaporean parents and students are riding high on the stress charts worldwide. The system here is cutthroat and is structured in a way that success seems elusive for those who aren't hitting the books hard. This academic pressure and the extreme competition that comes with it are part of the many reasons why Singapore's birth rate is taking a nosedive, despite the government's efforts at improving the numbers. Singapore's overall fertility rate among its citizenry fell on an all-time low of 1.04 in 2022. That's like historic low territory. Now, why should you care? Well, when you have fewer babies popping into the world, you end up with a shrinking workforce. And trust me, that's not good news for Singapore's economic hustle. While the baby count is dropping, Singaporeans are living longer. So, the older generation is growing, and the younger one, not so much. This low population growth isn't helping balance out the graying population. Additionally, as the seasoned folks retire, the working age squad gets stuck with the heavier load of healthcare and pension responsibilities. In the land of Singapore, where space is like gold, it's no surprise that they prefer dedicating it to high-rolling GDP activities rather than farming. That means over 90% of the grub Singaporeans munch on comes from over 170 countries and regions, making the country a bit like a food import hub. Sounds cosmopolitan, right? But unfortunately, this heavy reliance on imports leaves Singapore hanging on a delicate thread, swaying with the winds of global food supply and prices, especially as intense storms, floods, and never-ending droughts are messing with global food security. Singapore is a relatively new country that has so far been able to avoid mistakes. Still, with corruption and resentment increasing alongside inflation, it's obvious that the future of Singapore is bleak. As the island grapples with issues like an aging population, immigration concerns, a competitive academic landscape, and economic intricacies, let's not forget that Singapore has consistently proven its ability to adapt and overcome challenges. The dynamics might be shifting, but the future is not set in stone. There's a Chinese proverb that says, "Wealth does not last beyond 3 generations." The power to shape Singapore's destiny lies in the hands of its people, particularly this present generation. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more thought-provoking content.